Hey mama, you're listening to Coach the Mother, where postpartum recovery gets real, raw, and deeply rooted in who we are. I'm Dr. Natalie Forsell. I'm a virtual pelvic floor PT, postpartum fitness expert, and mama who's walked through grief, healing, and the long road back to herself. Around here, we're rewriting the outdated narratives around birth and the body. We're demystifying healing, reclaiming strength, and giving modern moms the wisdom they should have been given from the start. Let's coach the mother. In this episode, we are going to talk about ab separation. This is something that I have seen time and time again as a really misunderstood issue, often mishandled or underdiagnosed. And I get so many questions about ab separation in general. So what is ab separation, Dr. Natalie? Sometimes you might hear diastasis recti. That is the clinical term for ab separation. And this issue can look a little different from person to person. So if you look down at your belly and you can feel your bony part of the bottom of your sternum right at the midline there, the tip of your rib cage, that's called your xiphoid process. It's that little bony mark. And then you can feel and press in to your pubic bone at your pubic symphysis, that is the midline of your pubic bone. There is a ligament that attaches from the rib cage all the way down to your pubic bone. This is called the linea alba. This line of tissue is connective tissue, and it acts kind of like a zipper to all of these core muscles. The very top layer of your core, you have your six-pack muscles, your rectus abdominis. Then you have your obliques. You have your external and internal obliques that wrap around from the bottom of your rib cage, around your sides to your spine. Then you have your transverse abdominis muscles. Some people call it your deep core. This is your deepest layer of core muscles that act as a corset. They attach from all parts of your pubic bone and hip bones and all the way to your spine and the back. And again, it just looks like a corset of muscles that wraps around from back to front. But right in the middle, that linea alba is kind of that zipper where a lot of these muscles come into contact with and attach to one another. When you go through pregnancy, your body does amazing, wonderful things, and there's relaxin, there's other hormones involved with allowing your body to grow and stretch. Your ligaments and joints soften a little bit to allow for more flexibility and pliability, which also happens in your core muscles. Your muscle fibers themselves can start to stretch and elongate over the course of your pregnancy. When your muscles are at this max stretch capacity, the ligament, the linea alba, can also stretch a little bit as well. So when you think of ab separation or diastasis recti, we're not saying that your abs truly rip apart and separate. It's the ligament, the fascia between your muscles that gets stretched out like silly putty. If you have a true rupture or tear in your linea alba, in your core, anywhere, those are hernias. Hernias are different. When there's an actual tear or rupture in a ligament or muscle, and you have what looks like a little stone or pebble of a bulge, that is a hernia. That is not ab separation. That is not diastasis recti. Most moms do experience some degree of ab separation from their pregnancy. Your body just has to make space for that baby. It is normal and common for your abs to stretch apart to make space for this change. Some moms, though, after they give birth, they really struggle with this ab separation that doesn't quite heal, or their muscles don't quite come back together in the center anymore. And why does that happen to some moms and not others? There's a variety of factors. Part of it is, honestly, we don't quite know, but there's genetics involved with our hormone cascades, with our muscle tone, with our ligaments. A lot of that is out of control, just like stretch marks are out of our control. Some women get them, some women don't. Everybody is unique. I'm concerned about how to help yourself heal well after you experience ab separation, because the impact of ab separation can be really mild and not really impact you at all, or it can have really severe implications to your health and recovery. When it comes to true diastasis recti and what makes that a diagnosis is a separation of your ab muscles that is more than 2 finger widths apart, and your fingers can sink into that separation past your first knuckle. So if you have true diastasis recti, true ab separation, you can fit 2.5 fingers in between your ab muscles and they can kind of sink in and it feels a little squishy. That can have some clinical significance in terms of function or symptoms. To give you a visual for why healing diastasis is so important, I want you to think about an aluminum can of your favorite drink. It's a Spindrift, a Poppy Soda, a beer, a Coca-Cola, whatever. So this can is like your abdominal region. The top of the can is your diaphragm. You're kind of like this umbrella-looking muscle that separates your chest cavity from your abdominal cavity. It looks like a little umbrella, and when it contracts, it helps your breathing. When it relaxes, you exhale. This diaphragm is kind of like a trampoline. It moves a lot up and down, and it is responsible for healthy breathing mechanics. The bottom of the can is your pelvic floor. Your pelvic floor is a bowl of muscles that have a lot of different functions, but your pelvic floor is important for your ability to use the restroom, have great sex, to engage your core well. There's a lot of functions of your pelvic floor. And your core is the wall of this can, the 60 wall of the can. If you were to hold this can in your hand and try to squeeze it as hard as possible to pop the can or break it open, you could not do it if the can was fully sealed. There's no way you could crush a full can of soda with your hand. But now, if you were to take the tiniest nail you could find to hang a picture frame and very lightly puncture a hole in the side of the can, even if it was the smallest pinhead of a poke into the wall of the can, and then you were to try to squeeze the can, you would be able to force all the liquid out of the can and crush the can with one hand. Obviously, the larger the hole, the easier it is to crush the can, but even with the smallest hole, you could still crush that can with just one hand. I like to use this analogy when thinking about the pelvic system and your core's role in it, because if you poke that can from any which side, if you poke the can from the bottom, the side, the top, you all of a sudden have a pressure control problem where it doesn't take much force to cause issues, to cause symptoms. And that includes your ab separation. Ab separation can definitely go hand in hand with pelvic floor issues like leaking or prolapse. Ab separation, even mild or moderate, can make it difficult for you to re-engage and activate your core properly, which could lead to issues like chronic back pain. Wider ab separation can have a lot of impact on that pressure control problem, which could lead to bloating, constipation, or some GI-related issues. So having a solid functional core without ab separation is really helpful and crucial for long-term health, not just in your pelvic floor, but in your whole body. Your core, that soda can analogy, that can is like the bedrock of your body. Above your core, you have your shoulder and your neck. Below the can, below your core, you have your glutes and your lower body, and in the center, holding it all together, is this core system. Most of the time, doctors don't check for ab separation at the 6-week checkup, and if they do, they maybe aren't even doing it right, let alone do they give you any type of insight on how to heal your core well and why it matters. So you might never really heal your core very well, and then you have another baby, and by 2 or 3 babies later, you have really significant ab separation that is actually impacting your quality of life, that is impacting your ability to do simple things without hurting your back or to be able to go to the bathroom without difficulty. If you do already know about ab separation and you do know that you have it, there can be a lot of fear around making it worse. And that fear can be amplified through social media or through just a lack of education around what it is and what it means. When I work with my moms, I never tell them that any specific movement is off limits when it comes to ab separation. What I do care about is teaching my clients how to understand where their core is at and how to make sure that they are engaging their core properly so that they don't add more pressure to the ab separation and make it worse. So I don't believe in saying things like you can't do crunches with ab separation or you can't do planks or a different type of movement. What I help moms understand is how to control their ab separation and how to make sure that they're activating properly. So what do I mean by that? If you have ever seen pictures or videos of it or seen it on yourself, if you do a sit-up and you see what's called doming or tenting, it looks like this little speed bump in the middle of your core. That is ab separation that does not have pressure control. So when you do that sit-up, there's more pressure in your abdominal area, and that pressure is coming outward and upward through that ab separation. There are ways to do certain movements where you engage your deep core and do the same movement, but it does not cause that bulging or that tenting, and that means you have proper pressure control. If you are already back into exercises you love, you're doing some more high-level activity, and you start to understand or pay attention to your ab separation, and you notice, gosh, no matter what I do, I just can't prevent this doming, this coning around my core, that's an indication that you don't have the core strength or a deep core connection yet to be able to handle and tolerate that move without aggravating that ab separation. So what can you do about it? First, you want to figure out where exactly your ab separation is and how significant it is. I work with my clients to teach them how to do a self-assessment on their ab separation and how to measure it, and then how to compare whatever they find to 2 or 3 months into the program to see how much it's changed. This gives us a solid baseline of where your core is at the start of the program, where your core is at the start of the Postpartum Recovery Program, and then we work so much around breath work, retraining, proper deep core activation, how to build strength gradually and efficiently without stressing the ligament that holds your abs together, so that you can engage not only to work out your core, but to help heal it from the inside out. And that is a gradual process with step-by-step guidance from me to make sure that you're on the right track every step of the way and that you don't do anything that makes it worse that your body just can't tolerate yet. So it takes intention, it takes gradual progressions and a true understanding of how to know that you're activating properly and how to identify when you're overdoing it. This type of structure is so important, and this guidance is so important because you can save 100 free YouTube videos and all the social media posts you want, but how do you know that you're actually activating the right way? And how do you know where to progress and how to build up from there, at what time, by how much? That is not something that you can get for free through some DIY Google searching, unfortunately. But the good news is that it doesn't need to be that way. When it comes to healing ab separation, healing leaking, healing back pain, they're often all interconnected. So having a system and a framework that doesn't just look at anything in isolation, that's a big part of my work that I do with moms. I never just look at the pelvic floor or just look at the core or just look at your hip pain or back pain, because they're all related to each other. And when you work intentionally with the whole system, it heals faster, it heals stronger, it heals better than trying to break apart each of your issues piece by piece. Inside my postpartum recovery program, I have developed a 4-phase recovery system through all of my clinical training and research to give moms the complete healing solution from start to finish to be able to regain their strength, their confidence, and their sense of self postpartum while having one-on-one support from an expert who can guide you every step of the way, give you the additional recovery tools you need to address the things that matter to you most, like ab separation, and treats you as a whole person because you are not a body full of checkboxes and diagnosis codes. You are a mom who needs to function well, who needs to have the strength and endurance to keep up with her kids so you can be the mom you always dreamed of becoming. Ab separation can also be the insidious culprit of the mom pooch. Maybe you've dropped all of your baby weight and you work out. I get so often asked from moms so often, why do I still look 6 months pregnant when I had my baby a year and a half ago? Sometimes eating clean, exercising, losing weight are not the answer to why the shape of your stomach is still the way that it is. Sometimes it has to do with undiagnosed ab separation and core muscles that have not healed to reshape your core and to give it the pressure control that it needs. So if that sounds like you, I want you to listen the whole way through this, mama. If you're ready to finally heal your core, to get rid of your leaking, to get rid of your back pain, or just to feel strong and confident in your body again, and you think that this postpartum recovery program would be a great fit for you, you can find all the information on my website below at newnativecoaching.com. You can also apply directly to the program right from the website. I would love to see you inside. If you have specific questions about your story and your healing journey, you can always reach me on Instagram at Dr. Natalie Forsell. Thanks for listening to Coach the Mother, and I can't wait to chat with you next week.